All right, welcome back to a new episode of Two Plain Sports. Before we get into anything, we want to say thank you so much for all the support. Thank you for liking the videos. We really appreciate it. Make sure you continue to like it. If you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button. Go ahead and do it now. We'll wait a second. All right, cool. I hope you did it. And make sure you click that notification bell. That's really important because if you don't, you might not know when we post a new video. And it's a big deal right now. We're in the middle of college football. We're going to Big 12 conference play. So click it, do it now. So today's video, we're doing a recap. We just came back from the Nebraska game rivalry. We just celebrated the 50-year anniversary of the game of the century. So it was a big deal. Obviously, if you guys remember earlier in the summer when the schedule was first released, our AD, Joe Castiglione, was not a fan of the 11 a.m. kickoff. And that might have been a big point into why we turned to the SEC. And obviously now we're going to the SEC, but let's do a quick recap of the Nebraska game. In my opinion, there was a lot of things that went well and a lot of things that we can improve on. But there's a box score that we can look at and really kind of nail down where we did well and where we have an opportunity to grow. Brum, you want to go ahead and kick it off? Give us your opinion on what you think from this last weekend.
Yeah. So if you guys watched the game preview, obviously we talk a little bit about the betting. OU was a 22.5 point favorite when we recorded it. And I did say that, I would take Nebraska plus the points. And obviously that happened, with
Yeah.
OU only winning by 7. The thing is, and I know a lot of OU fans are upset, and, to be 3-0 and be upset how the teams played, we're OU's fans are pretty spoiled, I know the standard is very high. I totally agree and I get it, but I want us to remember and think back to last year. Obviously it was a weird year, 10 game season, went right into Big 12 play last year. Or I guess what we have Missouri State last year and then right into Big 12 play. But the Sooners started 1-2 and they were kind of just stumbling. They obviously blew Missouri State out because, whatever, there's so much talent, there's no competition. But they lost, got up big on Kansas State, lost focus. K-State came back and won. Iowa State, Rattler made some decisions, that a freshman first-year starting quarterback would make. And OU wasn't quite good enough to win games that they maybe, should have never lost, but, played down to the competition and ended up losing. Well, change, to next year, to this year, 3-0. Obviously, week 1 was a little dicey with Tulane. Probably shouldn't have even been that close, but it's the same thing. They got up big and they lost focus, but they were good enough to win. Obviously, Western Carolina, that's the equivalent of Missouri State, whatever. This week, I will say that this, it's a rivalry game. I know the kids, the last time OU and Nebraska played, all these guys were between the ages of 8 and 10 and 11 years old or whatever. And probably this rivalry doesn't mean anything to them. But the thing is, I know the coaches taught them about it and what it meant and what it means to the fans, especially the older fans. I only watched the tail end, or we only watched the tail end of this rivalry in the 2000s. We didn't get to see, the 70s and 80s and 90s, and, because we weren't alive or we were too young. But so with all that education and all that, what this means to everyone else, it doesn't matter. I will say that Nebraska is probably the second biggest rival to Oklahoma behind Texas. I know Oklahoma State wants to say, at least in football, this is a rivalry. It's really not. Like, it just isn't. And but like Nebraska is one of OU's biggest rivals. And so for that, I do think you have to remember that because of that, it's always going to be closer. It doesn't matter how bad Oklahoma or Texas are. when they play, it's going to be close. More times than not. I'm not going to say every time, but more times than not, it's going to be close because of that game. They will get up for that game. Either, both teams will. And I think Nebraska, they are improving. And as much as Scott Frost might be a little bit on the hot seat, I think I know Joe Klatt's been talking about that he thinks they're improving and they're going to win a game, a game or two that you don't think that they have any business of winning. I think they will. The team that played today was not the same team that lost to Illinois. They are improving. So I'll let you get your opinion on that. There's more I've got to say, but I don't want to talk for 15 minutes straight. I want to hear what you have to say. Your initial takeaway.
So, two things. One, I think this was a reality check for all of us OU fans. We came into the season thinking we should be the best team no matter what. At least I did. We had around the country, if we look at it, we had Oklahoma or Alabama, new quarterback, Clemson, new quarterback, Ohio State, new quarterback, Georgia, new quarterback. We were the only top team with a returning starting QB1. And to be honest, that QB1 has underperformed to Oklahoma standards. And if you completely disagree, leave a comment because I'd love to hear why you think he has performed to the expectations or maybe even overperformed to your opinion. But if you look at our last three quarterbacks, Spencer Rattler has been what we all expected Jalen Hurts to be. I saw someone tweet that, and I 100% agree with it. We expected Jalen Hurts to be a poor thrower of the ball, and Spencer Rattler has only proven to be a poor thrower of the ball. He is overconfident in his ability. He has amazing talent. He can make a throw. I know Joel Klatt has compared him to a Patrick Mahomes. He's just not that guy. He wants to do things he's just not able to at this point, at least at the college level. Maybe once he's at the pros, he can do it, but at the college level, we saw it in the first quarter. He tried to throw a ball into triple coverage. It was almost picked off. There were two balls in the first half that should have been picks where Nebraska's defense just didn't have the hands to secure it. And if those would have been secured interceptions, we would have a very different story today than we do, with the W. It probably would have been closer, and hopefully it would not have been a loss. But who's to say? I mean, like I said, Spencer could have thrown two interceptions. They were right in Nebraska's hands, and they just dropped them. Now, number two is, after the preview, while we were recording the preview, we all thought, Scott Frost was on a huge hot seat. He could have potentially been fired after this game. I think Scott Frost saved his job after this game. For the rest of the Big Ten, his conference play, I think they expect to lose to Ohio State, maybe lose to a Northwestern. I don't know, like what they expect, potentially for the rest of their season. But if they go, I don't know, 8-4, Scott Frost is probably there for at least one more year. I don't think they're freaking out. As long as they have a winning record, Scott Frost is going to be there one more year because he showed he can play to equal level to an Oklahoma, who's supposed to be a national championship favorite. Adrian Martinez, if you saw our preview, we said, make him beat us with his arm. He looked like a good quarterback against an Oklahoma. And I think, honestly, our defense is the only reason we won this game. Spencer Rattler in the offense had moments, but we're not the offense that we are accustomed to as an Oklahoma fan base. And I mean, before I continue, I'm going to go back, throw it back to Brom so that he can throw in some opinions of his own, because I've got a lot to say about this offense.
Yeah, and I do agree. I do think OU won this game because of the defense, and it's a nice thing to say. It's a nice change. Most of the time it's like, man, we barely won because of our defense. I want us to. Everyone's, I've been seeing people saying Caleb Williams needs to start. Caleb Williams needs to start. I get it. I understand that people expected Rattler to come in and throw for, you know, 400 yards a game. I understand. But I want us to also remember that Rattler has started a total of now 13, no, 14 games. That was his 14th start, counting all the bowl games in the Big 12, I believe. Or no, 12, sorry, 15 games, 15 games. No, I'm right, 14. Gosh, I'm going back and forth. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He hasn't started a ton of games. And I just think that he still is learning. And, because you think of Baker. When you think of Baker, think about how many games he started at Texas Tech and how long he was there. He came over, he transferred over. He was in the system for a while. Then he started for a couple years. When we think of Baker, we think of his last season or season or two. He played quite a bit. Kyler, he started at A&M, didn't work out, transferred up, had a great year. I do think that the receiving core is young too. Stogner is still coming back from that whatever that staph infection he had in his leg. He's been non-existent because I don't know if it's because he just hasn't been getting open or what the deal is. I still think he's acclimating. Theo Weiss isn't there. You look at who's playing with him. Mims, I haven't, he's played quite a bit, but Mike Woods, he transferred over, getting used to him. Cody Jackson has been playing. Mario Williams has been playing, both freshmen. Jaden Hazelwood coming back from injury. He's starting to get going too. I think, yes, Rattler's made some dumb decisions, but he's young and his receiving core, while it is talented, hasn't played a lot together with him. If you really think about it, how much has he played with either one? Theo Weiss and Marvin Mims were the two guys, and Weiss is gone, at least probably for the next, I don't know, month and a half. I think they were saying November, maybe he'd come back. But I think we've got to remember that there's a lot of growing pains, and we were so upset last year, 1-2, but the team is good enough and they won games that they kind of stumbled in. I think you're going to see over the next month that they're going to really start to get it rolling. And I think Gray is finally fitting in the system as well. You got to remember, you've got Kennedy Brooks, didn't play last year. Gray coming here from Tennessee, first year in the system. They're in the offensive line. They have 3 new starters. I just think, and Rame is just starting to get going too, because Congo started, but Rame, played a lot of the game. I don't think he played, I think Congo came back in later in the game. If I'm right, I don't know if I'm wrong or right about that, but I know neither one of them played a full game there. But everyone else played a full game, at the from what I remember, I believe everyone else played quarter, start to end. There's a lot of things on this offense. A lot of new players, a lot of guys that haven't played together. I think Rattler's also trying to get comfortable behind that offensive line. That offensive line's trying to find himself a little bit. I understand. I think you're going to see Rattler get better over the next 2 to 3 weeks, even in a month, whenever they go and play Texas. I just want everyone to remember that OU last year probably would have lost a game or two of what just happened these first 3 weeks. So I think you're going to see Rattler really turn around, and I think he's going to get it going. That's just my opinion. Yes, he's underperformed, but there's been a lot of things going against him right now, and Nebraska's a better team than people think. I just think there's a whole lot of moving parts, and Lincoln Riley, I think they're getting comfortable. I don't think they've opened the playbook totally yet. So
I hope you're right about the playbook stuff, and I think you made a lot of great points about the offensive line. I mean, it's probably fair. Spencer is still getting used to his center. I mean, with the alternating between Congo and Rame, I'm sure there is probably a little bit of an adjustment there for him. But if we think back at the last 3 quarterbacks we had, Baker Mayfield, Heisman winner, Kyler Murray, Heisman winner, Jalen Hurts. I mean, you're saying Spencer Rattler, has had a very limited amount of time in our offense. Jalen Hurts was a transfer Heisman finalist. I mean, Spencer Rattler at this point is becoming, like I said, he is what we all expected Jalen Hurts to be, an okay throw of the ball and can run the ball sometimes. At this point, Spencer is not running the ball like a Jalen Hurts would. I think out of all of those four quarterbacks I just named, Spencer has the most talented arm ability of all of them. This dude, I mean, we saw it in this last game. He was making some incredible passes on the run. He was making, off platform passes. He was doing it at multiple arm angles. He was amazing, but it's not to the expectation of an Oklahoma quarterback. And I'm one of those fans that if he doesn't figure his stuff out, why not throw in Caleb Williams? I mean, at this point, Caleb Williams is just as talented as this guy. He's got experience a little bit in the offense. I mean, he's had a summer and a few months with the offense. Give him a chance. If he can do it for a half, maybe he can do it for a game. And if he can do it for a game, maybe he can do it for the rest of the season. Who knows? I'm not saying bench Spencer now, but if he continues making these dumb mistakes or dumb reads, I mean, again, he's throwing into double coverage. And I understand sometimes the defense makes good plays, but when we're looking at a replay and there's clearly a safety over top of a wide receiver and the corner is pretty much stuck on the receiver, why are you throwing the ball in that direction? Why not take the easy dump off? Why not throw it to Stogner? Stogner is a very talented receiver. Like, take the easy completion and move the football down the field. Don't try to make the big play. Don't be hero. This isn't basketball where you can be a hero ball player and make the play when needed. Like, football is a game of taking the opportunity when you have it. And if you don't take it, that's when you get issues with it. Now, in Nebraska's respect, I think they did a heck of a job playing to Oklahoma's weaknesses in some respect. I also believe Oklahoma's defense didn't play to Nebraska's weaknesses. When we were talking about it in the preview, Nebraska's weakness was the offensive line and throwing the ball. Now, like I said, Martinez played a heck of a game in the passing. He had 289 throwing, one throwing touchdown. He also threw a pick. Now, if we compare them, Spencer had 214 throwing in the air and then only one touchdown. Both quarterbacks had one rushing touchdown. I mean, we expect Spencer to have more. If we're comparing Spencer and Adrian Martinez, we expect Spencer to have 300 yards, 2 or 3 touchdowns. This is probably one of the best receiving groups we've had in, I don't know, probably since we had both DD and CD in the same receiving core. Like, now this dude's got 4 receivers he could potentially throw it to. And I mean, I don't know. Is it the play calling? Is it Spencer's poor decision making? Is it the receivers just aren't as good as we expect them to be? I'm just having a hard time as a fan, again, rationalizing why is the offense underperforming so much?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I just want to remember 2017 Baker's last year. You think about it. I'm just talking about his last year. You had Mark Andrews and CD Lamb was there as a freshman. DD wasn't there in 2017, but even when you think about just Mark Andrews and CD Lamb, just what they are now, and I mean, CD came in and was a stud from the get-go. CD was the constant throughout. You look at Baker, Kyler, and Jalen Hurts. CD was there for all of them, and he is elite first round wide receiver. Just some guys just come in that way, and he got better obviously as he was at OU. He got better every year. I just not having that not saying we don't have a number one on this team, like receiver. I just don't think there's quite the clear separation between the one and everyone else. They're all good, but the thing is, when you put CD out on the field, they were putting at least most of the time they had two guys on. That opened a lot of stuff, and also they were able to run the ball when that offensive line. Was it 2017, 2018 when they won the I forget what the award's called, but it's the best offensive line in the country. It's recent. They were able to run the ball with no issue. I just really think just trust the process. It's going to be fine. Rattler was terrific towards, after getting benched at the Texas game, he was terrific down the remaining of the season. Just like Aaron Rodgers said a few years ago, relax. I just think we just got to pump the brakes. And if it doesn't change over the next 2 to 3 weeks, okay, that's fair. I'm just saying we can't react. A team's 3-0, and Nebraska's got a good front. It's Big Ten football. They control the clock. They run it. They it's just the Big Ten. They're big guys. I think that defense is better than people are giving it credit for. I think they're going to win some games this year that they probably shouldn't. They'll probably finish 7-5, 8-4 maybe, if they're they might squeak one out that they shouldn't. But I mean, going back, I really think you're going to see next few weeks. You're going to see great improvement. The playbook's going to start opening up more. I think Mike Woods is going to start emerging more. And I think that offensive line's getting that continuity finally. I think Raheem's going to start next week, and I think we'll see a change. But let's move on from the quarterback deal. I'm sure that'll be a weekly discussion if this continues. But let's actually talk more about the game and what we kind of thought. It came down to all three phases of the game are important: offense, defense, and special teams. I mean, gosh, that special teams play, that was my favorite play. I know everyone loved that interception, and I get it. It was amazing. But that blocked extra point and returned it, for the 2 points. That was my favorite play of the game. I mean, that was awesome. I haven't seen OU do that, and I don't know when.
Since our freshman year.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a long time. I credit to Isaiah Coe for not taking that play off, because sometimes I feel like, people take extra points off, and I get it, but OU had to know that Connor Culp guy was shanking field goals left and right. It's not unheard of to miss an extra point whenever your confidence is kind of shot, and it definitely was. I mean, the interception was great. I really am liking what I'm seeing out of that offensive line now with Raheem in there. I feel like Raheem is the better fit. And I think Chris Murray is fitting in really well. Anton Harrison looked pretty good. I think you're going to see, it's a typical OU team. You're going to see this team get better as the season progresses. And I'm really happy that we saw Gray and Brooks really carried the ball well. It seemed like Gray more so. It seemed like he's being leaned on pretty heavily. And I really like the way that OU was able to drive, got a few first downs towards the end of that game, and kind of iced it per se, or, pinned them deep with a minute left or whatever, and no timeouts, and just ended the game that way. That was a championship level kind of drive. Now, maybe a national championship team right now would have gotten that extra first down and not had that. Was it a snap infraction? I can't remember what it was. That it was 2nd and 2. They got a 5-yard penalty. I think it was off, false start or something. They would have been able to get that next first down on that, the championship drive. It's close. They almost iced the game perfectly without even having to punt the ball back, but the defense cleaned it up and no problem. What do you think?
Yeah. So looking at the positives of this game, one, DJ Graham had a hell of an interception. I know it wasn't in the best scenario and the best situation. Obviously, he did it when they were in the red zone, so our offense was put in a kind of a bad situation. But what a catch. Like, kudos to that dude. He made a play when needed, and he got probably one of the best interceptions anyone has made in a very long time. I think he kind of reminds me of the one Grimes did, and at the professional level, Grimes on the Lions and Calvin Johnson, very similar. Two, the defense,
Brent Grimes.
Brent Grimes, yes, on the Lions and Calvin Johnson. That was an amazing catch, very similar what DJ Graham just did. Two, our defense, when needed, they will go all out and absolutely destroy an opposing offense. And we saw it in that final drive. That defensive line was not going to take anything that the offensive line tried to put in front of them. They were going to destroy Adrian Martinez, and they did it. They made sure that they weren't going to get down the field. Now, on the offensive side, Jaden Hazelwood has become a big target for Spencer, especially for being an outside receiver. He's kind of taken a Michael Thomas kind of role if we're going to compare him to an NFL pro. You know, Michael Thomas, you know, a lot of slant routes, a lot of short routes where he's going to get a lot of contact, but he's coming from the outside rather than a slot receiver, which is impressive because he's not that big of a dude. He's tall, but he's not bulky, which usually slot receivers are short and bulky, which can take more of a hit. But I think that's amazing for Jaden Hazelwood. I think it's going to really push up his draft stock, speaking into the future. But for Oklahoma, he is going to be a big player when it comes to short down, third down plays where it's a passing situation or where we want to catch the defense off guard. Jaden Hazelwood's going to be that number one guy where we can trust he's going to catch the ball in a short yardage situation to get us that first down. In the running game, like you mentioned, Eric Gray did have a slight touch advantage in regards to full touches. Kennedy Brooks had 14 and Eric Gray had 16, 15 in the running game, and then one catch. He had 2 targets, 1 catch, but the catch was only for 2 yards. So, you know, I think Kennedy Brooks probably could have taken that place. So this is very much a running back by committee play right now. I believe Kennedy Brooks at one point will be taking over the reins and being more of a 60-40 split. But as of now, it is very much a 50-50 running back room. So the biggest pro for me is that we are winning because our defense is doing their job. Their bend, don't break. We are not winning by as much as we want to because our offense is not as good as it's been in the past, but it's still good. So, I mean, like you said, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we figure it out. Maybe the offensive line rotation is kind of messing up Spencer's, comfort in the pocket. I don't know. There has been a little bit of rotation, but Mario Williams has also been looking amazing on the outside, opposite of Jaden Hazelwood. I don't know if Mike Woods is as great as we expected him to be, but he's definitely going to have a role in this offense this year. I just think Mario Williams has taken over that number 2 spot, and it's going to be Jaden, Mario, and Marvin as our starting 3 receivers after this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's fair. I mean, Mario's been playing quite a bit and he's looked great. Really someone that stood out to me and that I'm really excited for, and we know he's really good, it's just been a while since we've seen him, is Jalen Redmond on the defensive line. Obviously, he opted out last year, and I think, like Kennedy Brooks, I do think he's still acclimating back. You know, it's tough to be a whole year away from the game. Same thing for Redmond, especially on the defensive line. He was tearing it up yesterday, it was yesterday when we're recording this. He looked great, and I think he's going to emerge even more and become even more elite. He is an extreme talent, and I feel like he's finally been able to put it all together. He took last year off, obviously, for COVID, but it was also great for him for his overall health. Like I think he had a nagging shoulder injury or something like that, and he took the whole year off, was able to get right. I don't know if he had surgery or not, but I know he healed up. He looks great. Him and Perion Winfrey and even Ellison looked great too. He seems to be really kind of coming on as far as the interior defensive line. That, Perion, Ellison, Coe, and Redmond, my gosh, that defensive line, like that interior defensive line is going to be mean. And even Jordan Kelly, but Kelly, I don't think really played a whole lot. And if he did, maybe I just missed him. But man, Redmond, I'm excited about. And I'm really excited about Reggie Grimes off the edge too. He seems like he's really coming on, in the limited snaps that he gets with all the talent in front of him. He's going to play quite a bit, I think, next year when, if you guys go to the league. But I'm extremely excited about what I saw out of Redmond. What do you think?
Yeah, so Redmond was number 2 in sacks. He was getting a lot of pressure. It was, I think, like you said, this dude's still getting acclimated to getting back into football. It's game 3, so he's probably more so than in game 1. I think by the time we hit the Texas game, this dude's going to be mid-season form, going to really, I don't know who Texas quarterback is at this point. Is it Casey Thompson? Is it Hudson Card? Who knows? But whoever's going to be back there behind center for Texas, not going to have a good day when you've got guys like Perion, Jalen, Isaiah, Nick, Reggie, all coming for your head. And that's just at the defensive line position. You still got Aguebu coming at you. You've got Ethan Downs. Hopefully, by the time the Texas game comes around, Danny Stutzman. I mean, we've got a great group of guys that are going to be sitting in the box, and our corners are just as good. By the time we get to that game, we'll have Woody Washington back. Hopefully, we have Billy Bowman back. DJ Graham, again, amazing play. This dude is a great cover corner. He got burned on one play, but let's be honest. Let's put this into perspective. You're going to get got. Someone's going to get the better of you at some point. It's going to happen. You're not going to be the best player on every play. So let's just take that as it is. He got burnt one time, but he made the tackle. I don't believe it was a touchdown. So whatever it happened, push it to the side. The dude still makes plays. So I think our honestly, it's weird to say, but our defense is the best phase of the game right now. And I know this isn't really talking about like kind of going off topic for just the game itself, but as an Oklahoma fan, I am a little scared of Alex Grinch being a candidate for the USC job.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me. He did coach at Washington State, for a year or two or a couple years up there. There's a threat, but I don't know. You just got to know that like a program like that in Texas, there's a lot of dysfunction up above you. Money talks maybe, but I would think he's going to be.
He has said that he's not. I think it was a year ago, maybe a couple of years ago, he didn't have aspirations for being a head coach, but being a Trojan is kind of a different. Name-wise, it's a different thing. Obviously, actual record and actual production is bad, but who knows?
I don't think USC is going to have interest in him, and the reason why is because I think they're going to want someone who's had head coaching experience before, and they're going to want someone that's already been down that road and not a brand new guy. But I could be wrong. Grinch is going to be a hot name for, I know, a bunch of people coming up with what he's done. And you brought up a good point about all the defensive backs, DJ Graham and Latrell McCutcheon and stuff. I think the playing time with Woody Washington and Billy Bowman being out has been, it's like a blessing in disguise, because you got a lot of guys that got to play all game or most of the game, as much as Grinch and them plays, with their rotating and whatnot. You got a lot of snaps for a lot of guys that wouldn't play as much. And I think down the road, when someone inevitably does get hurt, hopefully, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it just seems like, one person gets nicked up pretty good and misses a couple games here and there. When you're into that championship run, you need that depth to step in just in case. And, DJ Graham, I think the one that you're talking about where he got burnt on, I think that was a few plays before his interception.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was that same drive, if I'm not mistaken. But I think, with Cradell getting some time, DJ Graham, he plays a little bit every game, but getting that time, being on the field, and I think Bryson Washington played some as well. I did say before in the preview I thought Harrington was going to get some playing time, and maybe I just missed him, but I didn't really see him on the field. It seems like he kind of has gotten a little bit buried on that depth chart with all the talent in front of him. I don't know. Maybe next year he might merge a little bit, but I do think it's a blessing in disguise. I hope that Bowman and and Washington are back for next week. But if they're not, it's not the end of the world. The one where I want them back is at Kansas State in 2 weeks, because, dude, I am scared to death of that game, because I don't want OU to be strolling into Manhattan, looking ahead to next week against Texas, and just K-State is just I have PTSD with K-State, and it doesn't matter if we're at home or we're on the road. I get nervous playing up there, and especially before a Texas game. I don't know. So I want them back for that game. I want all of our talent, the best guys, to be available for that game.
100%. And let's not forget this, the game against K-State will be our first road game. Like, all, not just our freshmen, like Latrell and hopefully Billy Bowman, but anyone that's a redshirt freshman or a true sophomore has never played in an environment where they are not the favorite, or where there's people rooting against them. So it's going to be a scenario where, like I said after the Tulane game, and maybe I didn't say it on the video, but I know I said it to you or Brandon. If the Tulane game was in New Orleans and it was with, the crowd going against us, I think it could have been a different story. Now, I don't know if they would have won or not. I think hopefully Oklahoma still pulls it off, but it would have been a much more stressful environment. And going up against, like you said, K-State in Manhattan, it's going to be stressful. Spencer out. That will be Spencer's first game not being in Norman in front of his own fans. I mean, we're going to have a lot of stress against Kansas State, and then I believe we only have one. We have, and after the West Virginia games, for the next 5, it's only one home game. We obviously have neutral site, Kansas State. The next home game might be TCU in late October, mid-October.
I know Texas Tech is over Halloween weekend, but still.
Yeah. There's just a lot going to be going on for the Oklahoma team, and there's going to be a lot of new stuff for a lot of our players, because, I mean, after COVID didn't allow fans in stadiums, all of these guys are going up against not just, opponents and within conference, but against fans. And like it or not, that is kind of a stressful environment for some people if they're not able to kind of get over that hump mentally.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the schedule now. Yeah, we're home against West Virginia, on the road at K-State, at the Cotton Bowl. And then we're at home against TCU, on the road at Kansas, which, whatever, that's not a road environment. And then we're at home against Tech. So there's an actually, and then we're on the road at Baylor, then finish with Iowa State coming to play us, and then on the road at Oklahoma State. So there's a few games of it. That K-State, Texas, we'll know what the Sooner ceiling is after K-State and Texas, and we'll see what this team's made of. And I think West Virginia, you're going to see the team really start to button up and get it put together a little bit. Offensive line, I think, is going to be solidified. The audition, I think, is kind of over with at the different positions. Um, I think you'll see prime time on Saturday. You're going to see a pretty good team. And West Virginia is not a slouch team. I mean, if anyone watched the Virginia Tech game, they almost blew it, but Virginia Tech's a good ball club too. So this will be a good test. Not saying that they're the best, but it's going to be a quality opponent this weekend. And I want to touch on everyone saying that OU shouldn't even be a top 10 team and like, they should be the eighth best team and they should be dropped. Well, I want everyone to think about, like, okay, that's fair. You can say that, but think about it. Who's going to jump in front of them? Because someone has to go in front of these teams. You've got Alabama and Georgia. I would agree 1 and 2. Oregon, yeah, that's fine. You can put them at 3. I mean, don't forget they squeaked by Fresno State, so it's not like they've been extremely dominant. I mean, they were losing late in the game, and they won by a touchdown. You've got OU at 4. That's in the new AP rankings, and you've got Iowa. Iowa was competing with Kent State for a long time. I don't forget that, and I think Iowa's going to lose a game here pretty soon. Penn State, they look good. I get that. Texas A&M squeaked one out against Colorado, and their quarterback's hurt. They're going to lose here probably pretty soon. I mean, they play Arkansas this weekend. Arkansas looks great. Cincinnati struggle against Indiana, but they pulled away at the end. Clemson squeaked one out against Georgia Tech. Ohio State squeaked one. I know the score doesn't say it squeaked it out, but that was a very close game against Tulsa. So, and Notre Dame, they almost lost to Toledo. So I think there's a lot of going on with, getting back full stadiums. Kids are getting jacked up. Never, a lot of kids that are playing right now have never played in front of large crowds, like you pointed out. And, Alabama, yes, it's a little different. I get it. But I just think, it doesn't matter what OU's ranked right now. If OU wins out, they do what they should do and they control their own destiny, they're going to be in the playoffs. So I don't get in arguments, but I just don't know who you put in front of OU. It is what it is. But
I agree with you 100%. Like, Oklahoma at this point is right where they've shown they should be at the number 4 spot, in my opinion. After 3 weeks, it is Alabama is at the top. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Alabama's number 1. Like, they've shown they can compete. They have just a different mentality in how they approach football games. Then it's Oklahoma, Georgia, and Oregon are just a level right below Alabama, where those 3 teams could be Alabama's biggest competition. We just don't know if they can beat them yet because they haven't obviously they haven't gone up against an Alabama caliber team. So once we get to the playoffs, I think those 4 teams are probably the most likely to get to the playoffs, be the final 4. So hopefully we can see Oklahoma really ramp it up over the conference play to show that we are equal to Alabama and not a level below them, because we have the talent to beat an Alabama. You said it, going through the top 10. Literally all of these teams, even Alabama this last weekend was, they weren't almost going to lose to Florida, but it was a close game to Florida. I mean, they can be beaten within their conference. So if someone's going to do it, who's going to do it? And then if Oklahoma is good enough, can we be that? It's open. Can we be the team to pull ahead of everyone? This is the year where it's wide open for everyone. Alabama doesn't have a just silly, ridiculously high-powered offense and an amazing defense. LSU, going back to Joe Burrow and that year, they're not that. There's no team that compares to those types of teams. Let's just take conference you know, I think we've all reacted to week 3. We all have our own opinions, whatever. We're 3-0. Great. Well, let's take conference play. Let's take advantage and let's show that we can dominate teams, not just win. We have to dominate to show that we are number 1 or 2 in the country and be an undefeated team at the end of before playoffs, before bowl season.
Yeah, I agree. I think the best is in front of the Sooners. And to be honest with you, the way that the defense is playing, Lincoln Riley and Spencer Rattler will figure it out. This team will start to dominate teams come November. I really think so. I understand it's that short term, thinking in the now, all this stuff, and we should be beating teams right out the gate. Just relax. We're going to see a new team, or we're going to see this team really come together, barring some crazy injuries. Hopefully that doesn't happen. This team's going to become a dominant force, and I really think should not lose a game the rest of this, at least the rest of conference play. So we'll see. But overall, I'm not stressed about this Nebraska performance. I think Nebraska's a better team than people think, and I think Nebraska's going to win some games that a lot of people are going to be surprised about. And I think it's a good. I think OU showed that even in their best, not in their best performance, they can beat another Power 5 team that is solid. It's just, I think we're going to be fine in the long term. So,
Yeah,
but that's all I've got.
perfect. I don't have any final thoughts. If that's it for you, if you've made it this far, 1, thank you. 2, congratulations. I know we kind of go on a little bit of rants sometimes, so we really appreciate you sticking it through with us. Make sure that you leave a comment. We want to hear what you think. Give us an idea of what you believe the Sooners can be. Are the Sooners going to live up to the hype at the end of the year? Are we going to be national championships? Hopefully we are, but we want to know your opinion. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit subscribe. I gave you a second earlier in the video, so I hope you did it. And turn on that notification bell because it's really important to you guys know when we post our next video. And if you liked it, make sure you're sharing the video. We want to make sure we're growing this. Oklahoma football is a huge community. We want to make sure that we're hitting everyone's ears and hearing what everyone thinks. So share the video to your friend, your family, your coworker, whoever that wears Oklahoma or likes college football. Share it with them. It'll be fun to hear everyone's opinion. But thank you for watching and sticking around with us. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.